Alright, welcome back. So in the previous tutorial, we continued working on our opening scene, and Bob blinks now, and then after the opening scene fades away, Bob pops out, we have access to him, but we can refine this even more. I want to make it so that basically Bob rotates his head to the right, and then moves out of bed, and then we get control of him as sort of the ending of kind of our full opening scene here. And we're going to do that by linking sort of timers to do this for us. So in order to do that, we need to create two more timers. I want one that's going to rotate his head, and then I want one that's going to move him out of the bed. And we're going to do that here. We're going to create these two timers here. When the game is still equal to 0, meaning we just started, I'm going to copy this and paste it twice. And I'm going to call one of our timers rotate Bob head. And I'm going to call the other one move Bob off bed. And I want to actually, no, let me not do it that way. Delete that. I'm going to copy these again, each one, and paste them, because I want to create them and then immediately pause them. So this one's going to be pause the scene timer for rotate Bob head, and this one's going to be pause the move Bob off bed. So we've created them and paused them. Now we need to go to fade the screen, and let's collapse these just so we can see what we're working with here more. Come on, there we go. All right, let's organize this a little bit better here by adding two subconditions, and we're going to use our subconditions to dictate sort of where we're going with this. And here's what I mean. Let's create the condition that if the value of start of game is equal to 0, we'll do the following. And if we'll copy this and paste it and say if start of game is equal to 1, we'll do, the following there. All right, so let's move this over, because this is for our start of game is equal to 0. And let's move this underneath here. Okay. So how's this going to work? After we do our fade my screen opening scenario here, when it's completed, we're going to want to unpause our timers here logically. So let's create two subconditions underneath the timer, and these are going to be our actual timers. So we'll go to timer here, value of a scene timer. 1 second is a good starting point, and the timer name is rotate Bob head. I'm going to copy this and paste it and change this one to move Bob off bed, which is the name of our other timer we created. And these are going to be paused until we tell them to unpause. All right, so what do we want to do? What do we want to do? We want to create subconditions under these. So in order to rotate Bob's head and know when to stop, we need to know the direction of Bob's head. And we just sort of talked about that a little bit. We can use the sprite direction, current direction, and we're going to say if the current direction of Bob is greater than 0, which is Bob facing right. Bob facing right for us is 0 right now. So if the direction of Bob is greater than 0, we want to go ahead and change that sprite direction, change the direction of Bob to subtract 1. Now, let's copy this, paste it in. If the direction of Bob equals 0, well, then we're going to actually unpause our other timer. So let's go ahead and put that in now. Unpause, move Bob off bed. And where are we unpausing rotate Bob head? Let's go ahead and open up fade my screen opening timer. And we're going to unpause it here. We've got a lot of logical things to keep track of here, so we're just going to take our time. We need to unpause, rotate Bob head. Now we don't want to change this yet here, actually. We want to change some of this stuff all the way to the end. So let's just keep this in mind. We want to move start of game. We want to cut it and put it into our condition for move Bob off bed. Let's do 2 subconditions off of that. And let's just go ahead and move it down to this condition, which will be our ending for all of this. I'm going to grab, cut all the things that we were ending with fade my opening screen, not all of them, excuse me. We still want to delete the fade screen, we don't need that. We do want to cut the check for fade and paste it here. We do want to cut the stop Bob and place it down here in our last timer. We still want to delete my screen opening, that's fine. And we still want to unpause rotate Bob's head. If I'm going a little quickly, it's okay. We'll talk a little bit about it in the end. But basically, once this timer ends, it'll unpause this timer, rotate the head. Once the rotate timer ends, it'll unpause this one, which is now removing Bob off the bed. All right, let's look at our conditions here for this timer. We're just moving Bob to the right a certain amount. That's all we're going to be doing. So we can actually set a condition for Bob's position, which is common conditions for all objects. Position, compare the x position, as all we need is the x position. Bob, sign of the test. We got to think about our bed here, right? We want to clear the bed. So that would be that Bob is less than or equal to the x position. Let's get our bed here. Global variable. Here we go. Furniture bed, position x. This is our starting point. It's got to be greater than that starting point plus the width of that object, which is 100. Now that would take us right to the edge of the bed. We want to clear that. So let's do plus another 32, which is the width basically of Bob. We'll move him. So if Bob is less than or equal to this end position here, then go ahead and add 1 position point, 1 x position point to Bob. Add 1 to x. All right. Now let's copy this and paste it into this condition box and change the logic. If Bob's position is greater than or equal, I'm going to put greater than or equal just to cover my bases here, to this position, then we're going to shut all of this down. Okay, so start of game is now equal to 1. We'll give the user control of Bob again. We'll set our check for fade equal to 0. And our stop Bob is going to equal 0 as well. Whew, that was a lot of linking here. Let's see how we did actually. Okay, so right now we're just running our start fading timer. It should be switching over to rotate head soon. There it goes. Now it should be switching over to move Bob to the right. And now we should have access to Bob again. We do. All right, so what happens when we leave the room though? Let's continue this test. Hey, we're still good. Not bad. We have a nice proper little opening scene here for Bob. We might change a little bit more, but for right now, I think that's plenty for you to understand that you can link timers in order to create the effect that you want. Okay, you just have to keep track of when you're pausing, unpausing, and deleting. And maybe that's the last thing here I'm going to look at. I want to make sure that I deleted those timers because we don't need them anymore. So at the end of fade my screen opening, it unpauses this. So we don't want to just unpause this timer. We do want to go ahead and get rid of, where's timer? Here we go. We want to delete rotate Bob head. And then at the end of rotate Bob head, we do want to delete this timer as well. Move Bob off bed. That way we're not keeping this into memory if we don't have to. And we'll just do a quick check to make sure we didn't somehow ruin it by just deleting the timers. Okay, he's blinking. That first timer is still running. The other ones are paused. Now we're going to unpause rotate head. Okay, now we're going to unpause move Bob off bed. There we go. All right, nicely done.